Mark Larsen here for the Dreamcatcher Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today, my guest is Harold Callahan of the George Norris House in McCook, Nebraska. Welcome to the podcast. So today we're going to talk about the history of the man in the house. And so Harold, welcome, and a little bit about Harold today.
Well, my name is Harold Callahan, as this man said. I am a structural engineer by trade and somebody that retired a few years ago and had to have something else to do. So I came across this position, and to me it was a life-saving position, something that actually changed my life totally and turned my life around. I truly admire George Norris for everything he had done. One of them is not just for Nebraska and the nation, for me personally, myself. I see this man 9 feet tall.
Yes.
I truly do. In reality, he was like 5'3".
Okay. Very cool.
I'm glad I personally never met him because I do have that image of a giant man.
Yeah.
However, he was the gentle giant, is how he is described, or the gentle knight, rather, is how he is described in the Profiles of Courage from...
Really? Okay. Very awesome. So before you, I don't know how long you've been doing this at the house here, but did you know much about him before you started doing
I
this?
did study history. I was pretty good in history, but as all young students, they tend to forget a lot of things.
Oh, yes.
When I took this position, I was given 9 months to basically study and learn what I needed to do.
Okay.
And it was the winter time when I took this on. In fact, it was November. And so we were slowing, it was a slower time, and I had nothing but opportunity at that point.
Right.
And so I started reading George Norris's autobiography,
Okay.
called The Fighting Liberal, and then the very fun version of his memoirs, which has vulgarity in it, which is a derivative of The Fighting Liberal, which is calmed down and sort of edited by Ruby Lewis.
Okay, very nice. So, well, I think we were here back in June. Maybe just have, if somebody came to the house, the kind of the tour that you would provide for them. So.
Okay, well, here's how I would do it. Come on in to the George Norris estate.
Thank you.
George Norris was an amazing person, and he served Nebraska and the nation in over 40 years. He 5 terms as a House of Representatives and 5 terms as a U.S. Senator. He served under 7 presidents in total. He is responsible for the unicameral for the state of Nebraska, the 20th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, the 1933 Tennessee Valley Authority, and the 1936 Rural Electrification Act. Those are 2 bills that were signed by FDR that became law. Wow. Okay. And one of the things that actually I'm very proud to announce that we have the bill and the pens for the 1933 Tennessee Valley Authority in this home.
Okay, very nice. I did not know that. So, I mean, amazing. So,
George was also a very modest man. And here's something I tend to skip over, and I believe I may have skipped over with you last time you were here.
Okay.
This was something that George Norris received when the Tennessee Valley Authority was completed.
Okay.
This was something that the President of the United States gave his speech announcing the man of the hour.
Wow.
The Secretary of State, and then, of course, the Governor of Tennessee. George Norris accepts his gift as he's walking up on stage, and he only says a few simple words that actually leaves everybody dumbfounded. He says, "Let my work be my epitaph." And that was it. And he walks off stage, and everybody's scratching their heads saying, "Why did he just say that?" If you ever have an opportunity to visit the George Norris gravesite here in McCook, you will see that there is a gigantic tombstone, and it only has one word on it, and it's George Norris's last name. Really? It doesn't have his date of birth, the day he died, that he was in the U.S. Senate or the House of Representatives. His work should speak out for itself. George Norris left his legacy, so his work will be his epitaph.
Yes.
That was also something that he had left in the last request that his wife honored that by just leaving it as Norris, because his work truly should speak out.
Yes, I 100% agree. Yes, very neat. So,
when George Norris, he wasn't from Nebraska, by the way. He's a transplant from Sandusky Territory of Ohio.
Okay.
He grew up in a farming community where his father had passed, and then his brother was killed during the Civil War. George Norris was the youngest of now 6 surviving sisters, and his mother was 47 years old when she was an uneducated woman that signed her name with an X, and she had no other way of making a living.
Wow.
George despised banks because after his brother was killed in the Civil War, the family lost their farm to a bank. So George Norris, when he first obtained his law degree, he wrote his entire thesis on Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, really?
And that's how he modeled himself behind he thought that that's what all politicians were. So he modeled himself as somebody, as the most honest man in all of America, as we know, honest Abraham.
Right, exactly.
So the reason why he wrote his thesis about him is because he admired him for what he had done. He made himself a lawyer. And so George, studying law, needs to write about something, so it might as well be about honest Abe.
Exactly.
But by chance, is the only here in Nebraska. When he first obtained his law degree, he went all the way to Washington State.
Wow.
To realize he's allergic to the sequoia pine tree.
Huh.
His family owned property in Beaver City, Nebraska, so this might as well be a good place as any to start a law practice. So he had actually built this building. Ironically, he rents the bottom of the floor out to a bank.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's something to despise, but he did have a pre-setup to where it was supposed to be like a general store, like your beans and your shotguns here. And he also rented out a office building to a doctor, and he had an office building for himself, but he never charged farmers a dime.
Wow.
The reason why is he wanted to preserve people's lands and not have them taken by banks for things like the price of plows or seed, simply because it didn't rain that year. And George Norris resonated with farmers. So he goes to he goes to Beaver City, Nebraska.
Okay.
And he is continuing all of this work. It's also where he meets his very first wife, Pluma Lashley. And he marries her, and they have 2 kids there.
Okay.
And he's doing his work, but he's really not making any money giving his work away, doing all of this work, preserving farms. Now there's a district divisional court election coming up, and George gets the idea that he's going to run for that election. He does a little bit of research into his opponent's background to find out the man never set foot on a farm.
Wow.
Now, George wants this position because it's not only a bigger city, it's a paycheck. It's a salary for him. It was something he desperately needs. So he decides to challenge his opponent to a public cornhusking contest in Kearney, Nebraska.
Okay.
In front of quite a few hundred farmers. And of course, the farming man wins, opposed to the farmer that didn't.
Right.
And so he is instantly elected, which brings him here. This house, when George had actually purchased, was only 800 square feet. So we are standing in the original version of the home.
Okay.
The living room, and had a 1-bedroom loft above it and a wraparound porch. But basically, the house was really small, and it didn't have running water.
Oh, wow.
Now, George had basically expanded, and it was an ongoing process. Now he's continuing the same work that he's doing here as a district court judge for farms. So you're still continuing his works because he has more power to save farms, so to speak.
Right.
He's getting farmers a week to 2 weeks of not having, or a year to 2 years of not having to repay these loans because it doesn't rain. They did not irrigate back then in those days. Okay. So they relied on rain. And so if you borrowed money from a bank for the price of a disc or a plow or seed and you couldn't pay them back, the bank was going to take the assets. And that would be the land that you would actually put up for the loan. And that's what George despised. And that's why he went to work for farmers. Okay. That's why he kept being reelected over and over.
I bet, yes.
Now, he continued that work when he came here, and it was the townspeople in McCook that said, we need somebody like you to represent us in the state. And he said, absolutely not. I don't want to do that. My house is how I want it now. I have, my wife is pregnant, and I have 2 young kids, and they're in school here. This is how I want to raise them.
Sure.
After them hackling him, and he says, fine, I will go. Okay. And he decides to run, and he is elected. Also, this is in 1901, also his wife, Pluma Lashley, is giving birth to the youngest daughter. She passes away upstairs. George is distraught. He's crying. He doesn't know what he's going to do. Right. He's actually contemplating the worst sin of them all, suicide. It was his oldest daughter that approached him, and she said, Pop, I know that Mommy's in heaven. But I'm never going to leave your side. And she never did. She ended up being his personal private secretary until the day that he died. And it was her that actually discovered him dead in this home. and he died in this house September the 2nd of 1944.
Okay.
She was his personal secretary. She did follow him wherever he went. And so when he returned to Nebraska from Washington, D.C., she followed.
Wow, what a daughter. I mean, what a gift.
His whole life, he was a man of integrity, and so he raised his family that way. They were a very a tight, close-knit family. He was a religious person too, by the way.
Okay.
The amount of Bibles in here, you can't say he wasn't.
Yes.
And by the way, that Bible was more than 250 years old, and that carries George Norris's family's history.
Oh, wow.
That's something I felt to discuss with a lot of people, and I felt to bring that up.
That is an old Bible. I mean, wow. In history, that's a lot of years. Very much. So.
George, he was Dutch, by the way, and he was actually fluent in German.
Oh, really? Okay.
Now, this man was also an extremely honest person, which was not well received when he went to Washington, D.C. as an honest man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he obtained his law degree, and he wrote a thesis on Abraham Lincoln, and when he goes to Washington, D.C., hence Abraham Lincoln shows up.
Oh, wow.
Who are you? You're anonymous for us.
Right.
And so he was the thorn in their side, and he called them out for everything, including his own party. He soon became independent after that because he didn't want to be beholden to one party or the other.
I can see that, yeah.
And he just, his independence didn't matter to the farmers. They just kept electing him. It was I need to actually stop for a second. Is that okay?
Sure. So we just discussed that George would become an independent. So
being a thorn in their side, being so honest, they needed him out of their hair. So out of sight, out of mind, sort of thing, so to speak. So they put him on a steamship and sent him to Korea. And these are the accommodations that he received. And the reason why is they didn't think he could actually accomplish this task, but it's the brokers of the Western Pacific Alliance.
Okay.
And that's these accommodations. Now, we had nothing on him other than his own autobiography that says that he had done this. And so we had to write the Korean government and get these accommodations from them, as hence the date is 2015.
Okay.
Which is when we'd received them many, many, many years later.
Nice. I mean, that is amazing there. So, okay. So what's next?
Well, we're going to continue on in this sunroom right here. George's daughters, in between sessions, and when he would come home, they were all in ballet, and so he would say, "Show Papa what we learned today." So they would sashay and twirl and everything else that they would do. But also, what I do in here with this big screen TV is I utilize this to explain to fourth graders how bills are turned into law.
Okay,
because
excellent.
I do have something special to show you and your crowd.
Okay.
But so in here we start off with I'm just a bill for the old school.
Oh yes, I do
and
remember
then we
those.
graduate into how bills are turned into laws, and then we show an actual bill and pens used by FDR to sign the bill.
Very nice.
And turn it into law. That's something George Norris had done for Americans, by the way.
Perfect.
And come on into here. This is the dining room. George Norris was a man that tried to make everybody feel at home, even if they were away from home. And he cared about the common folk in general. Mm-hmm. And so he made it a point every time he was home in between sessions, and even after he wasn't reelected, to go north to the Army Air Base and handpick 2 airmen. In his autobiography, he writes that the hardest task of them all for him was choosing the 2 airmen out of the 40 or 50 airmen that were out there. Now, when he first did it, he went to the gate and he said, "I need 2 airmen to come home and have a family cooked meal." But word soon got out. He writes, people weren't even at the gate anymore. They were standing on the highway saying, "Take Everybody wanted to dine with Mr. Norris. One of the most amazing things about that is there is a letter that was written to Mr. Norris, and it was the young man that was a recipient of the Tennessee Valley Authority, and he got to dine. And so he wrote Mr. Norris, and he also wrote his family at the same time, thanking Mr. Norris for the opportunity to dine with him, also giving him the opportunity to meet the hero and made it possible for him to see the light, so to speak.
Yes.
And then he wrote his mom and dad, said, "You'll never guess who I got to dine with."
Yeah, exactly.
The man that made it possible.
Yes.
George did serve under the 7 presidents. He actually started with Teddy Roosevelt, the Rough Rider, and ended with FDR. FDR is the person that signed his bills. But he had pushback and vetoes on all of his bills.
Okay.
Part of it was, I want to say, because he was honest. Honesty creates animosity, I guess, in Washington, D.C. would be one of the easiest ways to describe it.
Yes.
In 1961, George Norris turned 100 years old, which means if he was alive today, he'd be 164.
Wow.
That's something to think about. But this is how the United States Post Office actually recognized him on his centennial birthday.
Okay. Very nice.
And then, of course, in Norris, Tennessee, the dam area, when the dam was under construction or even before construction, they had to build a town because the people had to live in that town while they're working on the new dam that was going on.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that consisted of everything a town would actually have. The dairy is still there to this day, although it's not called the Norris Creamery anymore.
Okay.
This thing still has milk in it, by the way.
Is it?
Drive off. But it is the Norris Drive-Through Dairy, and it's in Norris, Tennessee, sitting right on Norris Dam. The Norris Lake is there.
Nice.
It's very interesting, and I do have an in-house scavenger hunt, and this is on that.
Okay, that's cool.
And you'll see people occasionally come and grab it just
I
because
can
of
definitely see that.
So we can come on in here.
Okay.
I'm very excited about this. This guy's just got this door open. It wasn't even open the last time you were here.
That's pretty
This
neat.
is a pantry. Now I'm still working on this door because it's still.
Oh, is it?
solid.
Okay.
Everything's in original state. The amount of cobwebs and dust that is in here.
Oh, that makes it authentic. I mean, and that is a very narrow.
So I'm anxious about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you can push on it. There's something blocking it, like something like falling behind.
Oh, there is, isn't there?
And so maintenance wants to drill a hole in the door and pull it out. And I said, no, because I'm the manager of the place. I'm responsible for the house.
Yeah.
We tried wire. The wire bends because it catches on something. We'll figure it out.
Yes.
But who knows what's in there?
Something to be awesome.
Now, this is the setting where I can only imagine that George Norris continued a lot of his work as district court judge for the farms.
Okay.
After he was returned home and not reelected, his second wife, Ellie, actually writes in her diary,
Uh-huh.
I felt like an usher many times because when my husband came home, everybody wanted to shake the hands of Mr. Norris.
Oh, I bet.
So she says the line would go out the door and she would let them in one at a time, and she would come and answer, this is Mr. So-and-so, and George Norris. They come up and shake their hand. They would say, thank you for all that you've done.
Yeah.
And so she says at this time, all I want to do is get to re-know my husband.
I'm sure that's true, yes.
But this, by the way, is the Tennessee Valley Authority 1933 bill.
Okay.
And the pens used by FDR to actually sign the bill, turn it into law.
Okay.
I'm very happy to have these.
Yeah, I mean, that's... And he was the one that was responsible for the TV, the two bills that he.
Well, George Norris is responsible for the 1933 Tennessee Valley Authority and the 1936 Rural Electrification Act.
Yes.
Both of these bills were signed by FDR.
Okay.
These are both the same bills that broke the Great Depression, by the way.
Okay.
Now, when the bills are passed, it's not instant gratification. These things do not happen overnight. In reality, here's what it boils down to. He had vetoes and pushback before.
Oh, I bet.
Now, if these bills were signed and people would have been working, investors would have always been investing, the United States would have never even hit a Great Depression. That's something to think about.
Interesting.
Truly.
Very interesting.
I want to say that they didn't sign him because they didn't like the guy because he was honest.
Yeah. Yeah. That doesn't go together with Washington.
Yeah,
much.
it doesn't. And so that they called him a socialistic un-American for implementing
Of
these
course.
bills.
Yeah, they got to do something to get
We can
back.
continue on upstairs. I'm assuming that everybody can make it upstairs.
Yes.
And I'll follow you on up.
Okay.
But on the landing on the right, the top of the landing is a 250-year-old spinning wheel. It was George Norris's grandmother's and is significant to George Norris's future. And I'll tell you why. George Norris's brother being killed during the Civil War, and the man that was the breadwinner of the family, George Norris's uneducated mother, which signed her name with an X, had no really true skills, labor skills, and no other way of making a living, but she knew how to spin wool into yarn. So she went to her mother and said, Mama, can I borrow your spinning wheel? And so she loaned it to her, and she went to work, and she went to every sheep herder in the Sandusky Territory and said, can I spin your wool into yarn? Well, people went for it, and she ended up being successful, but she also sent all 6 of her daughters, and George Norris being the youngest boy, to Baldwin University, of which George Norris actually graduated in 1886 with honors.
Okay.
Tuition at the time was $18 a year, but still back then, who knows?
Still, yeah, I wouldn't probably still have been
Come
difficult.
on in here. Now, George Norris's second wife, Ellen, was not only a 4th grade school teacher, mother, referee, expert seamstress, tatter, crocheter, and also the co-founder for the Ladies Quilting Guild of Nebraska.
Really? Okay.
So everything in this home, all of the tabletops, the doilies, the bed linens,
Wow.
were handmade by her.
The time. I mean, oh, wow.
Well, the time exactly, and what I'm getting at is she's a 4th grade school teacher, so she still has grades papers. She has to break up the fights between the kids.
Yes, of course.
I know that there was no television back then, but I can't imagine the time it would take.
I can't either.
To actually do this amount of work.
No, they're amazing.
Now, George Norris, when he bought this house, when we were standing the original part of the living room, the 800 square feet, he was a visionary. That house that he originally bought did not have any running water or bathrooms.
Okay.
This house now has 4, and here's one of the bathrooms right here. He even thought, as far as like, I'm going to change the color, so every bathroom in his house has a different color.
Oh, really? Okay. That's quite the bathroom, especially for that era.
Big.
Yeah, very much. I mean, that is amazing. It's really pretty contemporary with what we today. Very nice.
Not very much different than mine.
No, either.
I would like to point out the flooring too. I did mention, I believe, downstairs that George Norris purposely bought things from estate sales as the house was progressing in growth, and he was shipping them home. Downstairs, they look how they look only because we have the windows open. The vibrancy and the color of these, when we keep the shades down.
Yeah, you really.
You need your sunglasses, truly.
Truly, you do.
They're very bright, very beautiful.
They're extremely beautiful.
And George, when he designed the home, he thought of everything, including light and dark laundry chutes.
Okay.
And you go downstairs.
Definitely this time.
You better be sure that you got it right. I'm pretty sure else Mom was going to get upset with you.
I
But
bet.
downstairs there is the bins. I don't see any signs up here.
No,
But downstairs the bins are actually painted white.
Are they? Okay.
So, and here's the Speaker of the House, Iron Fist Joe Cannon. And here is young junior Senator George Norris.
Okay.
Now, George Norris was a pretty good guy, but it being 5'3", not a giant of a man.
No.
The Speaker of the House had built a Napoleonic attitude within Norris by never referring to him as Mr. Norris, Representative Norris, Senator Norris. He only called him the little man from Nebraska.
Okay.
And I want to say that he actually helped Norris accomplish everything, because Norris, and I know now, built a Napoleonic attitude, is going to prove everybody wrong. That's also the same time he starts calling out everybody. But his very first task was to limit the Speaker of the House's tyrannical powers.
Oh, wow.
And so it took him a few years.
I
He
bet.
accomplished it.
It's quite an accomplishment, too.
And once again, this is Ellie's beautiful, beautiful work. This is one of the nightgowns that she had done.
Wow. Yeah, that is beautiful. I mean, I can't even imagine.
A lot of ladies that are quilters and tatters, they actually focus in on this area, the little tiny knots in particular. One lady, she was, can I get my camera? And I thought she was talking about her phone. She goes to her car. She gets this camera with a lens that's like this long. And I'm
wow.
Is that a
Really?
rifle lens or something? She gets it down and she's just taking pictures of, like, she said she wants to try to mimic the pattern.
That's
Now,
amazing.
even Ellie Norris, very beautiful woman. I mean, actually, she was beautiful until the day she had passed. And she lived until 1977.
Okay.
Now, she was 20 years younger than George himself. And
Okay,
here she is wearing this hat. But this veil, by the way, is nothing but thread. And in her diary, she writes, I have nothing to cover my face for my husband's funeral. So she made this to cover her face.
Oh, wow.
Her request is that this is never to be removed from the hat, because this is the gown and the hat that she wore when the gown was in there to George's funeral. This is the youngest daughter that was born in 1901 when George's first wife had passed. This is the oldest daughter that he had hugged when she says, Daddy, I'm never going to leave your side. It was her that discovered George passed away. It was Ellie that was making breakfast in the morning, and she was helping her. Now, she's in her 40s at this time.
Okay.
She goes, well, go wake up Papa for breakfast.
Right.
She comes upstairs, and Papa didn't move. So she tells her husband, she did marry. She never had kids.
Okay.
But she never did leave Norris's side. So her husband is in his home as well, and he is actually shaving, and she comes over and she says to him, I think Papa's gone. And so he goes next door and gets their doctor, Dr. John Batting.
Okay.
And he comes up and he says, yes, he's gone. They all walk downstairs together, and now Ellie is setting the table. And she writes in her diary, when we all go down there, we could see the expression on Mama's face when she saw the doctor. She knew something was wrong.
Right.
When we announced and said Papa was gone, Mama dropped what she had in her hands, and she ran upstairs. They heard the stomping. They heard her cry. They gave her some time to gather herself before they decided to come up. When they came upstairs, and we will go on into that room.
Okay.
When they came upstairs, Ellie had taken the chair. This chair, and placed it in front of the doorway. Nobody else is going to enter this house. Nobody else is going to come in here. Nobody's going to take her husband from her. The man that she had grown to love, the man that she had fallen in love with, is not here anymore. She cried, and they had to actually convince her to let Papa go.
Wow.
The day of the funeral was just a few days later.
Right.
Because they didn't have the embalming techniques that we have these days. So it had to be quite quick. She left the home, and she didn't return until 1964.
Wow.
She writes in her diary, the toughest task ever of all was to come through the front door without her husband.
Oh, I bet. I can see that.
So when she did return, it was 1964. And she actually pulled every item out of every drawer, off of every shelf, and off of every table, and give everything a serial number, listing it from 1 through. She lists over 77,000 items in this house.
That's a few. Wow.
I haven't counted them. I've only read.
That's wow.
But she also writes why they have it, how they obtained it, and why it's still in the home. Everything is extremely significant to her. Anything else she didn't want, she just discarded.
Okay.
But George, like I said, being 5'3", and I do see him 9 feet tall, and sorry the light is out right now, but the shower gives you a good idea of how tall he truly was.
Yeah, he was.
He was a tiny man.
He was.
But like I said, I see him as a giant. Truly.
Yeah, and I would
He's
agree with you.
He's done more than any politician I've ever read on. We have other politicians, and this is a political town. McCook, there's a lot of politicians.
Is there? Okay.
We have Ben Nelson's home is right down
yes.
the street.
Yes, I forgot about that.
But Ben Nelson truly has no legacy to leave behind. And I don't want to say that, especially in front of there's some people that may even admire Mr. Nelson. But I feel that if you were to have a legacy, and you're supposed to have statues and things, you shouldn't put them up yourself.
I definitely agree. Yes.
The state did this because George had left his legacy. Nelson's house is like that because Nelson built his legacy. Does that make sense to you?
No, it doesn't. No, I agree with the way you.
Well, the house was actually moved. That's not the original location of the house. The house was in dilapidation mode. Okay. The roof was caved in, and the fire department was going to burn it.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about the Ben Nelson house.
Okay.
He got a wind of it, man. He was upset. He calls the town and he says, I was born in the house. The mayor says, you better move it. It's an eyesore. It's not right on the main street. Well, he came out. The party was, and the big thing is like the marshmallow weenie roast that night. Well, he threw a wrench in that works, but it ended up being just a bigger party the night that they moved the home. Okay. Because the entire town walked the 2 miles an hour along it all night long.
Oh, the whole way was...
Everybody partied along with that house as they were moving it. And it was quite the thing. But then after he'd done that, there's no furnishings in the house. The statues and everything were placed by him and not the state.
Okay. Wow.
And like I said, he has built his own legacy when George Norris has left his legacy. There's a big difference.
There's a very big difference.
In politicians.
Yes. I definitely agree with you on that 100%. So, no, this is so beautiful. And this,
He was a visionary.
very much.
Even as far as when he very first saw this home, he didn't see an 800 square foot home without bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
He saw what it is now.
Yes. Yeah,
A nice, livable,
Yep.
4-bedroom, 2-story house.
beautiful home. Very much. So, no, Harold, unless you have anything else you would like to share.
Well, basically, that's it in a nutshell.
and,
This isn't a mansion. It's just a modest,
it's
modest man.
great. So, okay, if somebody wanted to find it, where's this located? It's in McCook, Nebraska.
We're in McCook, Nebraska. This is, I want to say it's 707. My mind escapes me, but I do believe it's 707.
Okay.
We are on Norris Avenue.
Which makes sense.
Norris Avenue, everything was dedicated to Norris. Norris Park, Norris Avenue, after George Norris's death. It used to be Main Park and Main.
Oh, okay.
Street.
So, are you on social media, or can people find you on social media if they're wanting to come by and?
The state of Nebraska has their own social media page. I do not do social media myself.
Okay.
I don't have Facebook or Twitter or anything like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I keep thinking about it, but now at my age, I'm thinking maybe I have missed my mark on that.
That's up to you. So are you open year round? I mean, what
We are not open year round, but I am always available. George Norris is somebody to me that I feel that his message and everything that he done for Americans needs to understand, they need to hear, and if they want to view the home, I'm always available.
Okay.
I get
Okay.
people that come here on Sundays, and I don't work on Sundays,
Okay.
and they'll call me, well, we're in front of the home. Well, I'm not going to have you drive from Omaha
Yeah.
and not see the house. So give me a minute, I will get dressed, and I'll be over, and I will
Okay.
show you the home.
Okay.
I've got the keys, and I'm always available. I'm always in
Okay.
this town.
Okay.
And even if we are closed, I am always in this house because I'm always researching, reading, and doing things.
I can definitely
In
understand
fact,
that.
this morning I actually started to, I am doing the prayer breakfast speech for the Heritage Days this month
Okay.
coming
Perfect.
up. And so
Very
I'm
good.
working on that. George
Okay.
Norris, of course, is my topic.
Oh yeah, definitely. Absolutely. So is there a number they can get a hold of you then? Or how do these people get a hold of you? Or they just come by or
Well, they could just come by. They can call. I do have an email address. My
Okay.
email is
Okay.
probably the best way to get me.
Okay.
And it's harold.callahan@nebraska.gov.
Okay, perfect. We'll make sure that's in the show notes too there. So very good. So well, Harold, thank you
Oh, you're
for
welcome.
this great tour. And and everybody come and have your own personal tour here.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's definitely better when you're in person here because it's this
I
amazing
give
place.
personal private group tours. Next month, as a matter of fact, I have the Ladies League of Colby, Kansas coming
Okay.
up. 16
Nice.
ladies, and that's going to be a fun event.
Very awesome. So yeah, I mean, this video, I mean, it doesn't showcase when you're here in person. It's just, it's always better, I think, when in person.
Oh, yeah.
So, but on that, thank you again and won the podcast there, and thank you for everybody for joining us on this episode of the Dreamcatcher Podcast. Take care.
Bye-bye.